It's my time, it's my season, and I've got a good reason to open my mouth. Gonna let it out, open your mind, grab your friend. I hope you listen to the end. The vibe is good and learning meets on She Who Speaks. Hi, welcome to this special Father's Day episode. I'm Renee, lover of a good laugh and all things behavioral. With me is Marilyn. She's unassuming, but with a good listening ear, and love men, an unstoppable force with an angelic voice. Together, we are She Who Speaks, and you would have noticed that our little setup looks a little bit different today. We have a lot of testosterone in the house. This is brand new. We are so excited. We don't know how to act. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you very well, but do you mind just going ahead and telling us a little bit about you, your name, what you do, and we're going to jump right in with a fun little game before we go into our program. I'll go with Uncle Bruce first.
Okay. Full name is William Bruce James. I go by Bruce most of the time. I am retired from a 38 year actually, at Vision Bank, a local bank here as the CIO. I started out as a teller and worked my way up to CIO. Okay, I went to East Central University here in Ada, the school that Renee went to. I also went to the Graduate School of Banking in Madison, Wisconsin, where I worked with internet security. I don't remember if I said I was in banking for how long. 30. I did. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm married to Peggy, my wonderful wife, for 44 years. I've got two kids. My son Will Jr. We call him BJ. He's a lawyer in Edmond, Oklahoma, and my daughter is her name is Crystal. She lives in Memphis, Tennessee, where she has a dental practice. I've had two other daughters that they're not Peggy's. They were from my first marriage. One by the name of Felicia and the other by the name of Tammy. They both live in Oklahoma City. And I've got four grandchildren, six wonderful grandchildren, actually. Four girls and two boys. And that keeps me pretty much busy in my retirement.
I love it. Mr. Pottinger.
Hello, everybody. Jaymie Pottinger here, speaker, coach, and trainer, and a talent optimization expert with Pottingers and Associates, and also an educator for over 15 years, going in my 16th year as an administrator in the educational realm. But my joy is adding value to people and giving them an opportunity to expand their territory and their latitude in terms of making the best decision as they find their best self. But I think what is most important about me is the fact that I'm a husband, a father of three kids. Sometimes I forget my youngest son because he took a little bit of long time to get here with us. But I have two beautiful girls, a 13, a 10, and my son who turns 5 in October. And it's just a beautiful thing. And I think that that's my greatest duty. And that's where I strive. I'm always learning in that fraternity of fatherhood and being a husband and being in that space. As I'm here with you, I was finished cooking dinner. So I was pretty tired up earlier. So they have to taste my hand when it comes down to Sundays. So that's where my joy is, seeing a smile on my beautiful girl's face, which includes my wife and my son, which he takes me as if I'm a donkey riding around the house. But that's it in a nutshell of me. So it's a pleasure being here with you guys. Thank you guys very much for having me. And I'm looking forward to an exciting conversation.
We are too. Thank you so much. I wanted to point out for our viewers, I didn't go to the school the same time as Uncle Bruce. I don't just age well. Just kidding.
It was called a college back then.
Right. Oh man, pay me no mind. I like to give Uncle Bruce a hard time. So I thought before we get to the real questions, the girls and I came up with a few little fun questions, and it's kind of like think as quickly as you can and answer the first thing that comes to mind. And your secret is safe. Your wives won't find out because they don't watch this. Okay, so you're fine. So the first question is, if fatherhood was a song, what would your song be? I'm going to put Jaymie under pressure first.
If fatherhood was a song, what would my song be?
Mm-hmm.
And I think about fatherhood when I found out first that my daughter was on her way. I would say it was like a highway with crossroads, and I was in blindfolds in some sense, and it was all about a learning experience. So my course would go something like that. You know, I don't have a quite beat at this point, but that's what it was like to begin with.
What about you, Uncle Bruce? What would your song be?
My song would be, "If loving you is wrong, I don't want."
But I know you're gonna come with something soulful. Listen. Okay, my lips are sealed. Next question: who is the most likely to sneak and break a house rule, you or your wife?
My wife.
What? Uncle Bruce, I think I know the answer for you. In your house, between you and your wife, who was the rule breaker?
You could probably answer that one for sure, but that would be myself. I would be the rule breaker around here.
I knew it.
Keep it real.
Okay, what is the strangest thing you ever did with your children? Or in your case, you can add grandchildren too for you, Uncle Bruce. But what's the strangest thing you ever did with your children or grandchildren?
Well, the strangest thing I've ever done for me is to take them out on a lake on a boat and then jump in with them. That's probably the strangest thing I've done. And they not knowing how to swim.
Oh, dear God.
Dangerous.
I was like, no, that sounds normal, but the swimming part, that changes things a little. What about you, Jaymie?
I think the strangest thing I've ever done is taking my kids, and it was summer was coming on, and I just felt like going for a walk, and I took them into the woods, the deep woods, without knowing what was there, and had my youngest daughter was on my shoulder, Sean was in my hand, and we were just going through. We came back with mud all over our shoes and everything, and Sean was like, "Where on earth were you guys?" And we said we were having fun. And then later I found out that there were huge snakes in that area. So
that sounds like a bad move.
But we're happy you're here to tell the story. And I feel like this question is the hardest question for all the wives and the moms and anybody and the kids that are trying to think about what to get daddy for Father's Day. What do men really want for Father's Day? Help us out.
I don't want anything. Actually, I've had so many Father's Day. I think I've got everything that I need. So I just want to be with them and spend time with them, basically.
Aww. What about you, Jaymie? What do men want?
For me, Father's Day, just chilling, just relaxing,
With the kid or without the kid?
With the kids. But the funny thing is, once I'm around them, Daddy, if I should put a quarter down for every time they say Daddy, I'll be a millionaire by the end of the day.
Oh man, thank you so much for playing. I thought it would be just a nice little icebreaker to get us going. So I'm going to pivot to Marilyn and she'll ask you the real questions.
Oh, okay.
Let's get to the real question. So what was your biggest influencer in your approach to parenting?
So who was my biggest influencer in terms of parenting? I would say my mom and my dad, but I'm pretty close to both parents. So if I think of myself as a father, I'd have to skew to my dad. He was always there, very engaged. And there were times when he was not engaged, but I understood exactly why he wasn't, because of what he had to do in terms of providing for the family. So I wouldn't say he wasn't there. So him being there at all times, ensuring that he went the extra mile, and seeing him giving up on opportunities to ensure that we had a daddy in the house every night before we went to sleep was something that made a big impression on me as a child growing up. And when I had visions of becoming a father, I've always thought of the fact that if I could be a percent of what he was to us, all 8 kids growing up, I think I'd have done a great job at it. So my father, in terms of experience, he really set the bar high for us, in terms of sons coming up and wanting to be great fathers when we would have had our own families.
That's beautiful.
What about you, Bruce?
I would say my father also. I kind of agree with Jaymie as far as him being there all the time. Now he was the father of 9. I had 4 brothers and 4 sisters, and I'm right there in the middle.
Wow.
And so he was quite busy trying to make a living back in those days. He was a barber instructor at a correctional facility. Plus, he had a barber shop there in our little town where I would go every weekend and just sit there and listen to all the good stories that these guys are telling, and just watch my dad cut hair and everything else. And out of doing that, I learned from watching him to do hair that I cut my own hair all the time.
Nice. So I have a question. Do you think that there's a shift in the way men approach fatherhood nowadays compared to the way you were raised?
Well, I think that we live in a gig-like society where things are always changing. And because things are always changing, you recognize that the influence and the impacts that are there really shift the way that fathering takes place. I think that society also paints a picture in terms of who we are. And for me, growing up, I was rather annoyed by certain comedies that I'd watch on TV, because television would send a picture that daddies were just dumb and stupid and couch potatoes, and the kids would run circles around them. And I wondered as a kid, which father were they really depicting? Because I had no chance of running any circles around my daddy for sure. I would not look, I had no chance of doing it. He would read my mind like a book. I think that he was the one who invented the word foresight or insight, because he had an insight he had a finger on exactly where I was heading. So I think that there's a shift, though, in terms of after the industrialization of the world or the revolution. You recognize that there was a time when mothers stayed in the home, and society minimized the impact or the role of mothers, and then things shifted where both parents are now working. So you find some of us as males, we find it challenging to not be the only ones who are taking the bacon home. And that has created some disconnect in terms of a role. And I have fathers who I work with who feel intimidated by that new structure, and it impacts the influence or the impact that they have in the home. So there's a struggle where that is concerned. And then you have other communities and subcultures that negatively paint a picture of fatherhood, and it has to be robust and tough, and it has to be aggressive from a sexual perspective and otherwise. And then that creates a rift in the home in terms of how our sons and our daughters are cultured based on what they're exposed to while we're there. So there are shifts, and there are a wide range of subculturing when it comes down to fatherhood. So to answer that question specifically is going to be difficult, but I'll say that there has definitely been a shift, and some of the shift has been to be more positive, and others have definitely impacted it negatively.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, I agree with Jaymie. But from a personal standpoint, I think my father was more of a authoritarian, and so that led me to be somewhat authoritarian. I can't even say the word, but but now I can tell through my son that their style is more permissive, and they try to let their children learn from their mistakes and let them make the mistakes, whereas we were trying to keep our children from making the same mistakes that we did. So we would tell them, you can't do this, you can't do that. And in doing so, I remember my son asked me one day, I can't remember what the question was, but he asked me to do something, or he wanted to do something. I said, no. And he said, well, why? I said, because I said so. And he said, well, that's not a reason. And so I'd had to back down and say, okay, I'm about to start answering you. And I believe that him doing that, him questioning everything that comes to him has helped him out in being a lawyer when he went to law school. Because he could question you to death now.
Mercy. And I think both of you are just such a great representation of fatherhood. And it reminds me of just my own experience growing up with my parents. My dad, I think, had a different qualities, I would say, different qualities in me than my mom did. And so as you're reflecting on your own home with your own children, understanding that there's a different role, and you've kind of hinted at it somewhat. There's a different role that moms play and that dads play. What would you describe as within your own home some of the uniqueness that you bring to the table as a dad, that you feel like, mommy does this and this, but when it comes to this particular realm, that is where I come in as a dad? I'll start with you, Jaymie.
Well, I think a lot has to do with the culturing that either parents received. For me, coming from a home where mom and dad was always there, I've never gone to bed without having both parents with me. Made a difference in terms of the lens to which I operate as a father, or even before becoming a father. I understood certain roles. Not that any of my parents were pegged into any role, but they both had different skill sets. While my wife, she came from a single parent family where her mother played both capacities and played both areas, where she had to be the disciplinarian, she had to be tough, and that sort of stuff. So for us, we had to negotiate how we dealt with that, because I came into the relationship understanding that mommy is there soft, gentle, daddy gives a little bit more structure, mommy allows a little bit. So we had to navigate through those rough waters to begin with. And I would say that I'm the one who offers more structure. My wife is a maverick, meaning that she goes for it, she gets it done. She also brings the stability where that is concerned. But when it comes on to the balance of love and who does what and stuff like that, I think that I'm the one who kind of create more structure in that regards. But she's really the maverick. I would say that she's the one who really keeps it together in those areas. She's more diversified in terms of her imprint on her family.
That's deep. I like that. Uncle Bruce.
I couldn't have said it better. My wife's left-handed, so she's kind of the authoritarian around here. I've learned that if I just stand behind her and just go with what she wants to do and how she wants to do it, everything seems to work out just fine. It took me a while, but I'm there now, and that's why we've been together for 44 years, I guess.
I love that answer. Shout out to Auntie and to Shauna as well. Yeah, I think it's so important, because I remember growing up, my mom was more of the authoritarian. She was the one that taught us manners. She was the one that made sure certain things were done. And daddy, yeah, of course he did that too, because daddy comes in with a deep voice and make sure that you're in line. And if you didn't listen to mommy well that day, then wait till your dad gets here and your daddy comes home and all he does is talking. I'm so sorry. He doesn't even spank you, but you're just crying. But at the same time, my daddy was the fun one or the more fun one, because my mom's fun too, but he would let us do things, kind of like push the envelopes. He's like Jaymie having us out here in these snake infested woods, because he thinks it's a great idea, but it's not really. So I just kind of wondered. Guys.
I have a question. I want both of you to think about the first time you were parents. You went back home with this little baby that has no manual to know how does it function. And you notice that I don't know if that was your experience, that your son or your little girl at the beginning was really close to his or her mother. And I would like to know, how did it make you feel at the beginning? Did you feel it was easy for you to be the father right in, or did you feel like he was an adjustment to understand? Because I feel at the beginning the child sometimes has a big connection with the mother because she's the nurture. They've been together for 9 months, and sometimes for the father to find his place. I would like to know, what was your experience about that, like the first time?
That's a good one.
I would say that I think what helped me out is the fact that I'm from a large family. So being the third for my mom, the fourth for my dad, made it a little bit easier, because I saw what happened with my sisters my four younger sisters and my brothers. So I was trained into being a mini father growing up in a large family in terms of helping to take care and stuff like that. But I think for me, when my daughter, when Jashawn was born, I understood exactly what was happening. I knew that mommy had a closer connection with her, and there were certain things that Shauna was more inept with than I would. Just being able to being connected. I only got jealous when she got a little bit older, and she was sticking to mommy, and there was not much daddy time. But after a while, as Renee said, we started having fun together, and I understood that. But as a father, you wanted, just watching my father, I wanted to have some amount of significance in my daughter's life. I wasn't just comfortable with the fact that I'm a daddy. I felt as if I wasn't doing my dad proud by just being a daddy taking care of things. I wanted to be in on her life in terms of having fun, giving her a shower, all that kind of good stuff. So I was very, very much in that role. So, Shauna would knock me up at night and say, your child is crying. And I'd be up all night. And then she'd be like, stop rocking the baby. Okay. Stop shaking the baby. Okay. And I'm like, lady, you want to get up and come and take care of, it's your child. Take care of that girl. And I stayed up all night and I rocked her. I did what I had to do, but that created that tight bond between my daughter and I. And those moments are etched into my mind forever. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
What about you, Bruce? Do you remember?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I remember. With my daughter, anyway, she was just, it was just a joy. Kind of like Jaymie says, being in a big family of 9, you kind of see how parenting is done. But when it comes to be your turn, it's totally different, because now you have that responsibility. You're responsible for that child. But it's one of the most greatest thing that you can have as a man, to be a father of someone. And my daughter and I, we have this special bond because, I just loved her from the first time I saw her, and we just spent as much time as we could together. On the other hand, my son, well, I loved him as much, don't get me wrong, but he was an asthmatic, and my wife is a respiratory therapist. And he just kind of clung to her the entire time. And matter of fact, he still clings to her, but he's still asthmatic. So I just had to give that. I just had to give that one up. But as far as getting up at night and taking care of them, she did that because she wanted it done right, and she knew that I wasn't going to do it right. I was going to go in there and play with them or whatever. So it's just a challenge. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, man.
It's so good to witness the connection that you have with your children. And often society depicts Black men in a different light. And I would like to know, do you still feel the pressure to go against the label of absentee father imposed by society?
There's a song I think that says something like Rolling Stone gathers no moss, or Papa was a Rolling Stone. I think society, especially the Black community, there was a time when I submitted to some of the stereotypical messages that were sent, especially in this side of the world, about fathers. But when you look at the cultural influences, and you look at the way Black men are treated in the community, you recognize that many of our Black fathers, even if they wanted to do well, it's difficult for them to do so, just based on how the cultural or the system operated with them. You think about it, the ratio in terms of how many Black men goes to jail and how long they spend in jail, and the fact that when they get back out, so most of them weren't exposed to having a father, and the system is unfair where that is concerned. And you could only become what you've practiced or what you've been exposed to. So while they label Black men most times as not being great fathers, they need to look at the system that also impacts the way they operate, because you cannot do better than what you've been given. And I must say that in some regards, some of the message that are sent, it's true, but I think that it's not necessarily true for everybody. I know a host of great fathers who are Black who do a great job in terms of taking care of their kids, and as Bruce made mention, his kids are doing pretty well. on my kids, even though they're still young, I would say that they're doing well. And I would say that I'm doing a good job in terms of spending time with my kids and a number of my friends. But I have friends also who were not given that opportunity to be great fathers because of the community that they were raised in and the challenges that they faced. And some of those challenges they had no control over. Their father were incarcerated from the time they were young for things that the counterparts weren't arrested for. So they grew up without having that influence in the home. And you ask, what should they do? Should they become mothers because they were exposed to mothers? So I think that it's not as easy to break it down when it comes down to fatherhood in the Black community.
We live in a little area where racism is evident, but it's kind of hidden deeply within them. and we've tried to tell our children to just be cautious of who you allow into your inner circles, and when they attended public schools here, and we just encourage them to be themselves and let no one else think that they're any different than they are, to just get involved in the things that they had interest in, no matter what others had to say. And the influence that we had on them in regards to society is that we just told them, be you. Don't let anybody else influence you just because of your skin color or whatever. You can be whatever you want to be. We've always been positive with them. I don't remember saying you're not going to be anything. You're going to grow up and be nothing. We've always were positive with them, and especially when it came to the differences in their skin colors and stuff. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but.
No, thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing that. So my question to both of you, and Uncle Bruce, I'll let you go first on this one, just to kind of break it up. What would be perhaps like one of the biggest lessons you hope that you have instilled from your children or that your children will learn from you? I feel like your answer just now kind of nodded to that somewhat. So I just kind of wanted to hone in on that question some more in case there's anything that you'd like to add to that. What do you hope your biggest lesson would be that you've instilled in your children, your legacy to them?
Well, I just wanted them to be themselves. I challenged them to learn as much as they could about everything that they could. And my son will always hit back on something like that. Why do I need to know what the capital of North Dakota is? You never know when you're going to need to know when the capital of North Dakota is. It's Bismarck. Okay. And I wanted them to know everything that they could in order for them to develop into whatever they wanted their lives to be, or what they wanted to be in life. And so the more that the more questions that you ask, the more knowledge and understanding you know about everything, then that kind of leads you into the path of what you wanted to do. And I think they both did pretty good.
What about you, Jaymie?
Yes, I think what I like for my kids to take with them is that they should love God, love people, and maximize their God-given capacity to do good at anything that they put their hands to. I think loving God, loving people, and going the extra mile to maximize their strengths while acknowledging their weaknesses are three things. If they do that, they will do good in life. I think that's all I could ask of my kids. And if they do that, I have nothing to worry about in terms of them moving forward and having their own families and living their dreams.
Awesome. Any parting words for the fathers out there who are watching this as we wrap this thing up?
Obey your wife.
What do you see? That's right. Obey your wife.
Very good. Why? I've been telling you, you're wise. Very wise.
You might be. You might be the head of the household, but we know who turns that head.
That's right. You're the head, she's the neck.
Come on. We feel the experience. I appreciate that.
Oh man.
Okay, Jaymie, give us some actual wisdom.
I think that when it comes down to fatherhood, because how things are changing, I think that be aware. Just be aware. Be aware of what is happening and take nothing for granted. And accept when you've failed, when you've messed up, whether in your relationship with your wife or with the parents, the mother of your children. Be aware and accept where you've messed up and be willing to learn to move on. We're not perfect, and sometimes we allow our testosterone to blind us to where we could go or where we could take our families. But be aware, apologize when you've messed up, and move on and seek help when you need help. If there's something that is bothering you, most of us as men, we don't like to talk. And because of that, we sometimes allow our wives or mothers of our children to talk us into a negative game. I'm saying that seek help if you need help, and don't fail to speak up if you need to speak up, because whatever is said of you to your children, that's what they think you are. And sometimes that's not who you are, but because of your unwillingness to speak up and to rectify and to verify, your children end up having the wrong image of who you are. And that's not good. You want your children to recognize exactly the value that you bring to their lives and to the lives of their mothers or whoever is taking care of them in conjunction with yourself.
Nice. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with us. It was really a really edifying conversation. I was really touched by your journey and your transparency, your advice. Thank you so much for your presence. I'm not a father, I'm a mother, but I was still blessed by you, by your perspective. I guess sometimes we don't listen, we don't hear you enough. That's how I feel we hear a lot about mother and single mother, for example, but fatherhood. I think that's why today was important to have you guys and to hear your perspective so thank you.
So much. Thank you so much for all your advice and your wisdom. And earlier, Jaymie, you talked about a business that you have and your involvement in something. Can you give us more details about what you're doing and how we can get in touch with you?
Okay, so I'm a talent optimization expert. Unlike most companies, we use data to help leaders, established leaders, and emerging leaders to uncover their greatest strength. And we do employment training for employees and for teams through talent optimization, and work with leaders through speaking and coaching and workshops and training. So you could check me out at pottingersandassociates.com, or you could follow me on Instagram and YouTube or LinkedIn. And I'm always on every Thursday with the Strategic Alignment podcast, and the Sunday Prep on Instagram every Sunday at 6. So you could check me out, and I'm always open to offer any word of advice in terms of helping leaders to grow and to build their capacity.
Wow.
I listen to Sunday Prep. It's real good, guys. It's real good. And it's not super long. You'll enjoy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for allowing us to share you with the world. We honor you. We celebrate you. You both are amazing men and fathers. I know your children, and they say the proof is in the pudding, right, Jaymie? That's the Jamaican terminology. And I think the proof is in the fruit of your loins. Your children are amazing people, and it's definitely also a function of you. So thank you so much for being with us today. To our viewers, if you enjoyed just spending time with us today and enjoyed having our gentlemen on to celebrate Father's Day, I hope you'll jump in the comment section and let them know how much we love and appreciated them. Happy Father's Day to all of our fathers who watch and support us, or husbands, or fathers, or uncles, or friends, or neighbors. You are celebrated. We know you don't often get enough of the kudos as you deserve, but just know we love you and we celebrate you. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. This is She Who Speaks. Bye-bye. And he who speaks too. Bye-bye.